am going to be presenting my student case study on a kid named Daniel. Daniel is a Chinese ESL student. He's 7th grade, 13 years old. Daniel is someone that I've actually had for 2 years in a row. I had him for 6th grade for humanities and literature, and 7th grade for literature class as an EAL support person. So I know him very well, and I've had a lot of experience with this child. So Daniel is just on the base. He's very polite, funny, and charismatic. He has lots of friends. He really is a good kid. Just lots of behavioral issues. His background: he is an only child. He lives with his mother and father, both grandparents. Almost all interactions have been with his mother. We're unsure why the father doesn't seem to be involved, but she typically says it's due to him doing business or working. The mother has come to every parent-teacher conference and meeting, and when asked due to behavior issues, but nothing ever does seem to change, not even for a day. The mother has said that she thinks the grandparents are maybe not the best influence on his behavior because they kind of let him get away with a lot. So other than that, let's go ahead and move on. Positives: Daniel, like I said, is very charismatic and outgoing with his teachers and his peers. He's a very social person. Um, he has great verbal speaking skills, which tend to be higher than many of his peers. He does participate in classroom discussions when he is engaged, and he does answer when called upon for the most part. He always asks lots of questions, and again, that is when he is engaged. And that's how I know when he is truly learning. He's always very polite and helpful to other teachers. So problem areas: reading and writing skills, very, very low scores. He in class, he avoids any reading or writing, even homework. He doesn't do in-class assignments or vocabulary quizzes. He is easily distracted, and is always distracting others. He's one of those kind of class clown kids, who cannot sit still or focus, not even for, I've timed him before, not even 5 seconds. The most I got was 15 seconds when I was doing one-on-one with him and having him follow along with my finger while he was reading out loud. Another big thing is he always talks when the teacher is talking. And we have a space underneath the desk where they can store books or pencils, things like that. And if I see Daniel being quiet, I always know he's probably doing something. And sure enough, he's playing cards or reading comics. I've had multiple teachers comment on when they know he's doing that, they just continue to let him because at least they can teach the rest of the class and not have to deal with his behavioral issues, which is sad but true. So, interventions and further concerns. Daniel has been given many, many interventions, most of which do not work. We've tried pairing him with higher level students. He ends up just distracting them. I have created mind maps just for him for writing assignments to help him because I know he's creative and I know he knows English, but it's the writing part I feel like he cannot organize his thoughts in English. We change the seating charts frequently. Selective grouping, of course, self reflections for behavioral issues. This kid has got, I would say, no short of at least 50 to 60 of these over the course of this year. That's where you go on lunch and have to reflect on your behavior. They don't work for him, they don't help. I've simplified vocab sheets or tried to use images, differentiated writing tasks that include images. That worked sometimes, but not so much. He just can't focus. And then EAL after school class, that's a class I teach. I thought it would be great for him, but he was too much of a behavioral problem that we had to remove him. And then we have behavioral management tracking card, which is where each teacher for each period would have to give their signature and give him a score of 1 through 3. After so many days of getting threes, then he would get to move on. But then, of course, his behavior would just fall off again. Interventions that did make a positive impact, I think, was the biggest thing was that we started doing about a month ago is I started pulling out, there's about 4 or 5 of the guys in that class that kind of feed off of each other. And I started pulling them out of the class and working more one-on-one with them. And if I could find a way to relate anything to video games or anime, then they would be very excited and engaged. Of course, he would still have his jokes every now and then, but it was the most engaged I'd ever seen him. Or if I could ever have him do anything on devices. We're not allowed to have devices here, but you can rent out tablets. So anytime I could do that, I would do that and have him help me find images to match vocab words. And then a big thing was special tasks. His mother even told me this and started tearing up, was that when she found out I made him my assistant, my class assistant, which he would be a note taker in groups, the board eraser, checking for homework. He would pass out red pens when we would do peer reviews. She kind of cried to me and said, "Thank you so much." He comes home and talks about how proud of himself he is, and is simply just giving him more responsibility instead of thinking that he's just this bad kid. And I really saw his eyes light up and his spirit light up when we did that. And then he did, instead of doing EAL after school club, join creative writing club, which we saw a lot more focus in. And I think that had a lot to do with him just not being with that same homeroom group class, because there were sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth graders in that class. And so his behavior was much better. Um, Further concerns, just again, there's been minimal, if any, progress in the last 2 years, with anything, reading, writing, behavioral skills. If anything, it's gotten worse. This really needs to be drastically improved for him to improve, to go further next year. He needs to be less disruptive in class and focus on his work. He needs to improve impulse control and organizational skills. And maybe many of you are thinking what I am just by looking at this. He probably needs some type of diagnosis to be able to help him with these things. This is something that I've struggled with myself my entire life, and I feel terrible for him that he's not getting the type of help that I ended up getting, or that I know that many do, that can really turn you around with these kinds of things. So hopefully he gets that. I've tried to speak with his mother, but it's a very touchy subject, as many of you all know. But in Asia, it's just not common for them to get these kinds of things diagnosed. And he does need a proper behavioral management plan that actually works and is consistently enforced. And I cannot say that word uh, enough: consistency, consistency, consistency. So having so many different teachers and so many kids, I just feel like he's slipping through the cracks. If any of you have any comments, questions, ideas, please send them my way and I will pass them to the other teachers. I would greatly appreciate your feedback. Thank you all so much for listening, and I hope you have a great day.